Yeah, another one of these. This long drawn out deal. When will it end? It's dragging on and on and on. And no matter how much you try, you can't avoid it. So what do we do? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. It's ABK, Microsoft wants to pay, but Sony's being just a bitch about it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Well, if you were in any doubt about who the bad guys are in this business deal, what gas? Then let me be clear about your confusion. The UK Competition and Markets Authority published the opinion of 6 development studios, all of whom said that the deal should go ahead. What a shock and surprise to nobody. We all know the deal was good for the industry. Only a tiny number, Sony and some very hardcore, jaded fanboys are contesting this on partisan grounds, and the excuses and arguments against the acquisition just get weaker and weaker as the days go by. But if you're not going to listen to other publishers and developers, then why should you listen to PlayStation, or even worse, the rabid foaming at the mouth fanboys who stretch their nether regions in a desperate bid to oppose the deal, which we know they would support if PlayStation was buying them, let's be real. Interestingly, the studio stayed anonymous, save for one Scottish developer, 4J Studios, the developer actually responsible for the console versions of Minecraft. The developer said that during the period Microsoft was a partner, it honored every element of the agreements it inherited from Mojang, and also extended their relationships to other platforms like Nintendo Switch, as well as many other content enhancements. Sony keeps claiming that Microsoft would purposely sabotage the games appearing on its consoles, but we've already seen the likes of Minecraft, Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, Psychonauts 2, all Xbox first-party games running fine on PlayStation. Heck, some of these games are even appearing on PlayStation Plus. The second studio said, "We believe that consumers' tastes and preferences in the video game space cut across an array of games and wide variety of genres and platforms. As such, we do not believe that any title can be considered a must-have in the interactive entertainment market, obviously, except Sony's pretending otherwise." Sony wrote to the CMA saying it cannot protect against the loss of Call of Duty. And the reason for that is the following. Sony Interactive Entertainment's recent development experience of shooter/battle royale games is limited, and its main active shooter franchise is significantly less impactful than Call of Duty. Cry me a river. So just because you haven't bothered delivering good first-person shooter experiences doesn't mean you get to bitch and whine and stop another deal from happening. How is that a good justification? Heck, PlayStation is still getting caught for 10 years, remember? If Sony doesn't have faith in its own first-party studios to build something competitive in the first-person arena space, especially after purchasing Bungie, then it's got bigger problems if it's desperate to rely on third-party money-hunting deals. The third anonymous response from the developer said it was difficult to predict the exact effects of the acquisition, but it didn't expect any significant impact. The fifth reply came from a business, most likely an indie outfit, from the sounds of it, that said it found its sales actually grew stagnant on PlayStation. On Xbox, it found the opposite to be true, and that was because of how Xbox had several ways for players to discover the content on their stores and through Xbox Game Pass. It went on to say that actually, the acquisition would probably create a more level playing field between Xbox and PlayStation, stating that, and I quote, "PlayStation needs better competition to force the platform to up its game, and this will surely help to do that." Absolutely it does. PlayStation has had a whole generation advantage over Xbox, and that doesn't nullify Xbox's own big blunders, the biggest one being the Xbox One generation. But this is also the same PlayStation that has methodically and aggressively maintained its foothold in the industry with its all sorts of money-hatting antics, and you know what? Fair play. No matter how much we don't like it, PlayStation did what it needed to do, especially when Sony needs it to survive as a company. But the moment there is sight of real competition and an impetus for PlayStation to get off its backside and deliver something compelling in the first person and multiplayer space, it throws its toys out of the pram. It's such a bad look in my opinion, and I think it could actually have negative ramifications for the company in the future. Maybe. I get it. At the end of the day, money talks, and over time developers will be inclined to forget as necessity, and capitalism demands it. But as far as weighing up the ABK deal itself is concerned, other than some broad policy statements and the FTC claiming it's worried that Xbox could renege on its contractual obligations because no real substantive reason for that, what's left? Well, a few of you commented on the article in question on our website, Gameondaily.com. Sign up, you piece of... And anyway, you guys had some pretty strong opinions on it. Let's take a look, shall we? Dead Gecko says that he, like most people, agrees that the merger should go through. The prospect of ABK unionizing, Bobby Kotick going away, Game Pass having loads of games and as a result having a positive boon on the community are some of the reasons why he is for the deal. He also says that Sony's arguments are baseless and lack substance, and those gamers who speak against the deal are upset Sony fanboys. Haha. Good friend Gangster Red warns against listening to these Sony fanboy analysts and says that the industry itself is not worried about the merger, only Sony is. Interestingly, and I agree with him here, he says that Microsoft has bent over backwards too much to try and appease regulators. If it was Sony, it wouldn't have done half of what Microsoft has done to satisfy these regulatory bodies. I think so too, and I think that speaks to the fear of Microsoft initially when facing a vocally emboldened FTC that was speaking about curtailing such mergers before it was even on the cards. Or Beans raises an interesting point about how the CMA will approach these studio sentiments and use it against the deal, because we know where the CMA is inclined, unless of course the CMA intends to disclose dissenting opinions from developers in the future. Christopher Jones says this highlights the reality of the gaming industry and how it views the ABK merger. He says, adapt or be left behind. Sony is unwilling to do either. Food source. Arbid114 feels he doesn't get treated equally on Xbox and draws attention to Octopath Traveler 2 being one example. That's not appearing on Xbox. I'm not entirely sure this one is Sony's fault though. I think this one is just down to perhaps the first game maybe not being that successful on the original Xbox. The omission of the sequel is a strange one though. And finally, Deadly Headley says that Sony and its anti-consumer choices are born from its position of complacency. Oh shit, the deal going through would push Sony to be more competitive. Absolutely. He does, however, say that Xbox is by no means innocent either and has to deliver on its first-party promises. Fact, I agree with that completely. It must absolutely happen. And if the deal does go through, expect me and a few other fans to be relentless in our demands for Xbox to get things right with ABK, including exploring those long abandoned IPs. Well, what do you think of all this? Are these developers correct here? Do you expect dissenting opinions from other developers to be revealed soon? We're about to hit some key dates for this deal, so if you're hoping all the ABK chat dies away, you'll have to think again because it's about to get even more spicy. But hopefully we get some decisive answers soon. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe, and if you want to feature in the next video, just make sure you go on Gameondaily.com and comment.